What?
Lights of good, they start to dance. Things and chance, variables in a trance. Python takes us to advance. Functions call with melodies. Logic flows like gentle seas. Syntax singing in the breeze. Bugs are just a minor tease.
Hey guys, how are you doing? How's your doing? And you're just starting how was your night? Hope you had or are having an amazing and beautiful day today. So today we're going to be talking about Django REST APIs. Everyone has heard about APIs, but today you're finally going to be able to develop one of your own. But before we go in, let's have a basic understanding of what APIs are and what RESTful APIs are, which is what we're going to be working with the DRF, which is Django REST framework. So we're going to be creating RESTful API. So you need to have a base understanding of what they are. You must really have a solid understanding of Django, everything Django related that you need to understand before we start developing the APIs. I would be sure to touch on them and introducing them to you so that even aside the APIs, you'll be able to create your own basic Django project. You're also going to need to have a base understanding of Python because it's a Python framework at the end of the day, and all our codes are being written in Python. Writing, make sure you have your code editor opened up. You can use any editor IDE you see fit. I'm using PyCharm. You can use Visual Studio or anyone that you're already familiar with. And yeah, before we go in, what is a RESTful API? APIs are called application. RESTful API is an API that allows communication between different technologies across the internet. It allows you to carry out basic HTTP operations from get to post to put to delete and so on. Django REST framework allows you to have control over these APIs. Usually, you would know, like, let's say, Flutterwave, for example, if you wanted to create a site that would involve users to make some type of payment, you would want to start hard coding your payment codes from your own or start finding technologies to handle one or two things. You would get Flutterwave or any other alternate API and you integrate into your program. So this allows you to use other codes within your projects without having it just create a modular coding environment. So APIs are highly encouraged. And even if it's amongst your own, like I said earlier, if let's say you have an app that does some type of transaction and you want to create a mobile version of the app, but you want everything synchronized without having to make everything like individualized on their own, you can create an API that your Flutter developer or your Swift or Java developer would now be sending requests to them, and that API will now send a response based on the request that was sent to them so that they would know how the app will interact with it. Or if you are using maybe Django as your backend to create the API and you want to use React on the front end, but without having to like go through all the other technicals and everything, you would create your different REST API views and you'd have your React developer interacting with them whilst displaying the front end to the users. But without further ado, let's just jump in. Make sure you're in your directory. First thing we're going to do is create an environment. So I was already on that. Before you start, make sure you have virtual env installed or whatever environment you are using. So you just pip install virtual env, and to create our environment, I'm just going to say virtual env and the name you want to call the environment. So you can use env, you can use benv or whatever you see fit. So once it's created, a directory will be brought up here. So we are going to be going into the scripts directory to run the activate here, which is going to activate our env. So the way you can just do this, you can do this the layman's way by doing cd to change directory, or you just have the name of your env, which is virtual venv. You would have your backslash, you would have the script folder, which is a capital S script, and you would have the activate command. So running it on Mac OS is different. I'll have the code on the screen, activates. And to know if it's successfully activated, you have your the name of your environment in parentheses. Now we're going to install the two main packages which we're going to be working with. First is obviously Django, so pip install Django. So just give that a minute. Okay, and now we're going to do pip install Django REST framework, one word. Okay. Now, before we can obviously start this project, we need to create a Django project. Now, creating a Django project is not just creating a file. You use the Django admin command, which is Django dash admin start project, and then you're going to add the name you want the project to be called. So let's just call it my API. So a directory is going to be created here. So if we open it, we're going to see another directory created with the matching name. So first we have our manage.py, which allows you to handle how your whole program is being run. Just think of it as like the server control of your program. So any other command we're doing, if we want to run our server is manage.py. When we want to create the app is manage.py. We'll get to that shortly. But if we open uh my API package, we have this initializing file, which is what differentiates this package from just being a plain directory. So if you are on PyCharm, you notice that the icon used is a bit different. So if you were to just come to this file now, let's just create a new file and just add our initializer is underscore init underscore. Once you add this file into any directory, it automatically makes that directory function as a package, but we don't need that. So we're just gonna delete it. Now, this isn't usually that important, but I usually run multiple projects alongside each other. So I'd like to have my project running on different ports. So I wouldn't have to always like turn off each server whilst I'm now restarting it. So I just have them running on separate ports. And let's just, for the fun of it, let's use 8080. So we're going to run a server on port 8080, and it's going to just give us a link. Click on it, and this is how you know that your code has been created successfully. But before we do it, like explore further, let's just close our server, Control C, and we're going to create a super user. So Python manage.py create super user. So just give it a name, an email address. So it just asks for your email, your password, confirm password. So I've done that and I've cleared my terminal so you wouldn't see that. But we're going to run our server again. Sorry. And now when we're running the server, to visit the admin based on the URL that we had listed there, our admin part is going to be at slash admin. Then it would ask you to log in. We could also now change this URL. Wrong project, very sorry. We could also now change this URL. If you come to your main project URLs, we currently have it at admin, right? So let's just change this for the fun of it to admin dashboard. How do you spell that? Board. So now if we reload it, it's going to show us page not found. So the reason why we're seeing this error is because our debug is still true. So usually when you're deploying it, even if your page is going to have an error, you don't want the user to see this because sometimes it will show snippets of your code. So you'd want to just turn the debug off and then create your custom 404 or 50 whatever. So we'll just copy this part, admin dashboard, and just place it here. So now we can log in. Okay. So basically now all we have is just our users, our groups. As we keep creating more apps and we register the models here, we'll see everything listed. But yeah, this isn't what we came here to do today. So let's jump into the main of this thing. So some of the basic things that makes DRF like very good and why it's user friendly, apart from being easy to create APIs with it, they have like they handle serialization, which is the converting of JSON. So these models I've been talking about, when your models are created, you need, because in Python the way you interact with it is not the way your other project interacts with it. So every single technology is like turned around interaction with JSON files. So serialization will turn those your models and the object and everything to JSON files, so that the people who are like making requests receive them as JSON responses. And when they now send a request that maybe is in a JSON format, it converts that back. So we're going to see that. So it's just for the interaction. It also makes authentication and control, like access control, easier. But yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right in. Okay, so now we just need to open our um back to our app. We're going to open our models. So the project we're going to be working on in this video is just a simple auto control um app. So we want an author to have a place where they can upload their books and have digital copies of their books and have their users view it. So we're not going to be using the file upload for now, just because it's a basic program we're going to do. But let's just create one that takes the title of the book, takes a little description of the book, and the date that the book was published, and maybe we need the author. So to create a model in Python, you're going to have class. So we're going to have class book parentheses models dot model and your column. Then we're just going to define all the stuff we need. So we're going to have our title, which is going to be equals to models.char field. Now in Python models, you have multiple fields. So char field is when you just want like a simple text, usually like an input field. You would have like files, you have numbers, there are many. So let's do auto.models.char field. Okay, let me clean it and see if I can see all the ones. So we have um okay, maybe I'll just leave a link where you can just go and see all the possible fields you can use in your model. So char field. Then char field, you must always give your maximum length. So max underscore length is equals to any amount of characters you feel will be fit. So we're just going to do our description and published dates. So while doing for this one, we're doing models dot date time field auto underscore now add is equals to true, which means when you're saving it, instead of having users manually input the time, we'll just take the current date and time that the object was being created. So once your model is created, let's just go to admin and register it. So, oh no, let's not register it. Let's make our migration. Let me just open up a new terminal so I don't have to. Oh, you know, it's fine. No, let's just do that. Make migrations first. Sorry, let's register the app. So we're going to go back to our project settings.py, back up here where we register our apps, and we're just going to add the app here. So the name of our app is API. So we can save that. Let's come over to our URLs. Let's register the URLs file. Oh no, let's not register it since we have not created our URLs file. Let's just make our migrations now. So now it's going to show you migrations for API has been created. We created a model book. If you come to our app now and we check migrations, you will now see this initial migration that has been made, because that is the very first migration. Any other migration you're making now will have detailed documentation of like what's happened, like either what was added or what changed, stuff like that. Then once you've made your migrations, we're just going to migrate. So now I've pushed it into our database. So if you run your server now and we go over to our admin, so if you refresh it, you would notice that the stuff we registered is not here. We don't have control over that. So to remedy that, we're just going to come back to our admin.py for the app. So we're going to for models, we're going to import book. Then registry name is very easy. We're going to say admin dot site dot register, and in parentheses the model you want to register. So if we save this and we reload the page now, you'd see your API app, and you now see all the models that have been registered under it. Now, when you are creating, like when you are listening, you can customize how the like how it's registered. You want to like be able to search using these parentheses. That is not really what we're focusing on. So this is okay enough for us. We can create a model with a book. We can add the author. We can now add a description. I can save it. So we can also add a def string. So let's do that so that this would not be just showing us as here. So let's just come back to where we defined our model. Sorry, I'm just going to do def underscore str, and we're just going to return. Let's just return the title. So it's going to be self dot title. You can add more things. You can use like a string and like customize title slash author, however you want it displayed. But now you see is now going to return the name of the book. So it'll just make it easier for, like, if you just have a list of books, you just easily know if you're just seeing book one, book two, book three. It's overwhelming. And now that we have our model defined, let's create our serializer. Like I said, serializer allows to convert these models into JSON files and vice versa. So we're going to create a new Python file called serializer. From Django REST framework, we're going to import from our REST framework, we're going to import serializer. So from REST under framework, import serializer. I'm also going to import model, which is what we want to convert. And now I'm just going to walk you through. Why is it showing? Didn't we install this? Let me check that. Okay, so we have created a book serializer that is best specific for the model. So serializers aren't only for models. You can just use them for any complex Python data type, and it just simplifies it to something that can now easily be turned into a JSON file. So I'm going to create a meta class, reference the model that I want to create, and here we're now going to detail out all the fields. So any field you place within the parentheses are fields that are the fields that when you are creating the JSON respective fields for, those are the ones that would be created for. So we're just going to do all since we want to be for every single one of them. But if we want to now specify and like we'll just have some of, we'll just list out the fields by the names in which they were registered in our model. You can also go a step further and add more of like customization to it. Let's say, for example, we want to know like when was the book published. So you can just say def underscore like get underscore date underscore since published. I'll just have our parentheses self, obviously, and then we're going to have an object. Now we're going to return. So we're going to have time zone dot now because we want to get the current date dot date. I'm going to subtract that from object dot the published date in the object, and we're just going to save that as a date variable. And now if we save our file, our serializer has now been created. So now we're going to create our views. So there are two ways to handle views when working with APIs. You can either use your API views, which gives you more control but would require you writing more code, or you can use view set, which it's already predefined code functionalities combined for you to just call, almost like the way we did our serializer. So view sets are usually a beginner friendly way to get into it. So we're just going to say from REST underscore framework import view set. Then we're going to import our model and we're going to import our serializer. Now we're going to define a class and we'll just call the class book view sets. So it's going to query all the objects of the book model and it's going to do so using the concept of the serializer that we had created. So based on whatever customization you had given it or whatever. So now that we have that created, we now want to handle the routing. That is just basically creating the URLs. Because if you've ever worked with APIs, they'll usually have different URLs for different functions that you don't carry out. So let's just quickly register that in our directory. I'm going to first import include. Okay, and now we're going to open the URLs file for our app, and we're just going to set up the first main things which we need. So from Django.urls, we're going to import paths. Let's also import include. Then from our REST framework.routers, we're going to import our default router, and then we're going to import the view that we just created. So usually everything relating to your URLs will be held within a URL pattern. But first of all, let's just set up the router. So we'll just create an object for that. And then we're going to just say, okay, this is the view set that it's going to be referencing to handle out all these actions. And then we're now going to define the URL within the URL pattern. So when you are defining, you first have your path function, which is going to have the exact point. So since in our URLs, where is it? In our URLs, we have the book at API. So if I open it, it's going to be our domain / API /. So when you now come to this URL, say if we had put maybe something like book here, so it's going to be API /book. But since we're leaving it like just at the roots, it's just going to be our domain /API. So usually let's customize this. So usually the way you would want we can start at down the line, add more Python controls to it. Like for example, version, you would want to maybe have a place where I can control the version, but for now we'll just do it manually. So I think it will be API version, or is it version API? And this one should be okay. So we'll just have the version so it would look much more. But then yeah, let's just leave it at the root for now. Let's save that. So if we are to now open our servers, let's just run our server. Okay, let's create let's just register the template back in our project. So the dir first we need to import OS. What just happened? Okay, and now we can define our directory, so where it's going to be found. So it's going to be os dot path dot join the base DRL and template. Then we'll also need to update our installed app to make sure the REST framework is there. So REST underscore framework. So let's run this now. Let's see. Okay. So if you come, so these are uploads, we can start customizing all these things down the line, but you'd have your books. So if let's say you want to carry out a, so you can control what format the file shows you are. So it's in, did we change the URL for where the books is supposed to be? Oh yeah, when we're defining our routing. So if we come over here, it's going to fetch all the current like books that are listed below based on what we have in our, this was the one we just created. Then let me see. It's so the up here you would see HTTP. So HTTP usually has different error codes. You have the 200, which means it's good to go. You'd have the list of all the HTTP actions that can be taken out, like get to pull, which is what we have here, post, head, options. Then it's currently returning it as a JSON file. So if we now want to, let's try creating one. So you can either use raw data when you just fill it in within here as if you are writing your own dictionary, but let's just create another one. Um, so let's go back to our dashboard, and you can see this second book we created is here. So now if we go back to books here, you can see from the list of functions that are available for this place here, all we can do is just fetch and create. But we use their base reset, which promised us full CRUD functionalities. For those of you who don't know what CRUD is, that is create, read, update, delete. In this case, the update is put. So the way you do it is using this ID. We're going to fetch the URL. Let's just get rid of this. So we have pulled for the first book. So now you can see that we now have the ability to get, to put, and so on and so forth. So if you come down here, you see a form with already the predefined details. So you can just change it that this is a description. So we're going to now update that. So it's going to be updated here. This is a description, but just for confirmation sakes, it's also updated at our back end from our dashboard. Likewise, you can now decide to delete it. Let's delete the second one instead. Let's delete number 2. So this is the TikTok. So like I said, the serialization, what it does is change it to JSON. So this is the file that is being sent between the apps. I just want you to see it. But yeah, let's delete it. And now if we fetch for, if we go back to all our books, we can see it's only one book that we have. It's only one book that we have. Now I want to add authentication. So this is the logged in user here. But now we want that like you must be logged into like carry out certain action. So the way we're going to do this one, so will not just be a basic thing. What we're going to do is we're going to set it that everyone can view the list of books, yeah, but you must be logged in. Sorry, you must be logged in before you'll be able to create, edit, delete. Let's do that. Okay, so we're going to need to update our views. So Django REST framework comes with something called REST permission. So let's just have it here. So from REST underscore framework dot permissions, we're going to import is authenticated. What this does is make sure the user is authenticated, but we want to get also is authenticated read only, so that, like I said, we want them to be able to view it, but we don't want them to be able to actually carry out any like modifying actions on it. So we have our book view set, we have our query set that still stands, we have our serialization class. Now we're not going to add the permission class below it. So they will just be like usually a list of all the permissions that are being granted based on whatever condition it is that you want it to be. Then we can now um yeah, so let's just go back and see. So we would use two different browsers now to check it. We're going to use my browser where we're already logged in at, and we'll use a different browser where we aren't. So let's just go to the first browser from our API routes. So everything is listed. My permissions are get, post, that is I can read and I can create. I'll just go to the book that I want to view. You can get, you can update everything. So let's go to a different browser. Which browser should we? Let's use our private browser. Okay. So as you can see, that form below here usually that would allow me to like create a new one. Let me show you for reference. This form here, it's missing. So because the user there isn't logged in, so even if we go back to the ID of this book, we can't carry out any action on it. We can just view it until the user is logged in. So one more thing I want to add, we're going to update our model first. So let's get the user who created, I keep opening Visual Studio. Let's get the user who created the file added. First, let me just prevent them having to ask me to manually. I'm just because this one is a foreign key, so just to avoid like this whole terminal tobacco, we'll just delete the database file. So this they you can use your terminal to handle everything. Now we can run our server. So if we come back to our books, would log in, add a book. We just add the user that we're associating it with. Okay. So yeah. Now what do we want to do? We want to set the authentication now that instead of just allowing all logged in user to like be able to edit it, we want it to only be the associated user that would be able to edit it. So let's do that. So rest DRF allows you to customize, like add your own custom permissions. So in our app, we're going to create a new Python file, permissions.py. Permissions. Okay. So in this, we're going to import the REST framework permission. Then we're going to define a function that like we're going to find a class that is using our owner or read only. So we want to have specific users who would be able to edit it. So we're going to say class is owner. Let's just class is owner or read only, then pays permission. So we're not going to say has object permission. So this just basically the exact same permission that we had before. You everyone can read, but before you can carry out any specific action, you must be logged in. But we'll now take this step further, that before you can actually carry out those actions, you the object that user, that is the current user, must be equal to the object.user, which is the from the model which we are fetching, that user field must be equal to the request.user, which is the current user that is trying to use it. Then we'll just update our views.py. So from permission, okay. So we're going to add a new permission. Like I said earlier, this is going to be a list of permissions. So it's owner the read only. Then we'll just add one more thing, because for the create function, we want that when a new book is being created, that the person who is creating it, you want to assign it to the logged in user. From Then we're just going to say serializer dot save. I want to now set user equals to the logged in user. So let's create a new user firstly. I'm just creating a new user. I'll be back. So the new user has been created. So let's just transfer the ownership to the new user. And let's come back here. We're in book one. So because the user ID doesn't match that of the logged in user, I can now just only view. I cannot carry out any other action on it. So just create another. Okay, so I use the same name for both of them. So we now have this ID to which we now have access to this, because that is under our own name. If you try, let's make a change to this one and we push it, it updates successfully. If we do the same thing for one, we don't even have the option to. So one more thing now for the authentication, because this one I logged in from the admin dashboard. You were quite right. The login is going to be handled usually from the platform they are on, but let's just add something to handle logging in so that this user can log into their own account. So back to our PyCharm. So we're going to use Simple JWT for token authentication. So we need to install that. So it's going to be pip install Django REST. Well, then in our settings.py, let's just come to the base. So usually when I'm adding any like stuff like this, like handling authentication and stuff, I just usually put everything at the base so I can just easily handle everything for me. So all in caps, REST framework. So we're going to have our default authentication class, which is going to be REST framework.authenticate.session authentication. We're not using session authentication, we're using token authentication. So let's just remove this. we're going to have rest underscore framework underscore simple JWT authentication dot JWT authentication. Then we'll define our permission classes, not necessary since we're already defining it inside of our views, but let's just add that just for proper organization. We're going to have our default permission, which is going to be our framework dot permission dot is authenticated or read only. Okay, is there any other thing? Our URLs. Okay, so we need to import a few things first. We're going to see from rest underscore from rest underscore framework underscore simple JWT. We're going to import token obtain peer view, token refresh view, and just in our patterns, we're going to create two parts. We're going to have an API token part, which is going to be token updates peer view, in token obtain, yeah. And we'll have another one to refresh it. Token underscore refresh view. So when a user wants to log in, they are going to visit this URL here, It's going to now be where they will now like log in and it's now going to authenticate them. So let's just save that. I don't know why it's not reading all the installs we have been doing things. Something wrong with this. I need to uninstall it and install the whole IDE again. So before we continue, let's just install Postman. Okay, let's just open that up, run it. So the reason why we're using Postman is because if let's say you wanted to like use just the Django REST framework front end that they're giving us, you'd have to start going to like your developer console. It's unnecessary stress. So if it's something you would need regular authentication, it's better to just use Postman. Postman is created for this reason. So it just makes everything and the whole process easier for you. So we're just going to create a new request in Postman once it opens up, and then we're going to give it the URL that we want. Just a digital an account. So we'll just open a new tab, which is where our new request would be. Then we're going to set it that it's a post request we want to make. So let's just go and copy the URL where we are making this art. Where is it? Yes, this. And we're just going to paste the URL there. So we can see it, and let's send. this. We're going to pass. So the first one is our username. Username. Push. So I'm going. So I'll just show you this because I wouldn't want my password. So we're going to have username. Then in a string, you're going to put your username. You're going to have a comma. Then you're going to put your password. Then you're going to have your password here, and then you're going to send. So I'm going to have to put my password in quickly. So I'm just going to cut and come back once I've done that. Okay, so once you've gone to body and you have passed in your whatever, you're going to get this. Then we're going to copy our access token. Or let's not copy that yet. So we are going to want to make a new request. So let's just open a new tab. So this new tab, we're going to copy the books endpoint from our API. So let's first of all come to our headers here. So we're going to now set our key and our value. So for here, we're going to have authorization. Then for our value is going to be bearer. It not copy. Okay. All right. So now we want to get for this at 1, which ideally we're not supposed to be able to edit. But so we are going to come back to the body here and pass like for the value that we want to edit. So kind of like the way you have this stuff, let's just copy this to make it easier. Let's just edit only the title. We'll add updated to that. And has the session expired? Let me see. Oh, we didn't add a backslash. Let's add that. Okay, our token has expired, but at least now we know the code is running. So let's just generate a new token. I think I should still have my stuff in the body. Okay. Let's copy that. Let's pass the auto and every other thing. Let me just recopy that. You know what? Let's just copy it as is. Then we'll just edit the values of the ones we don't want changed. Let's go back to our dashboard. We updated the first input. Okay. So yeah. So now you can now review on how to start implementing it into your other projects, like your, let's say for example, your React, your mobile apps, and